The fluorescent lights above the hospital corridor buzzed with that particular frequency that made my teeth ache. I'd been on my feet for 14 hours straight, my sneakers squeaking against the linoleum as I pushed the medication cart from room to room. The antiseptic smell had long since burned itself into my nostrils, mixing with the stale coffee I'd gulped down during my abbreviated lunch break. My scrubs clung to my back, damp with exhaustion, and my hair had escaped its bun hours ago, wisps sticking to my forehead. I was invisible here, just another nurse in seafoam green, another set of hands distributing pills and changing IV bags. The doctors barely glanced at me. The patients' families looked through me. And that was fine. Preferred, even. Being invisible meant being safe, and safety was all I had left to cling to. My phone vibrated in my pocket as I finished with Mrs. Chen in room 304. I pulled it out with trembling fingers, always trembling now, had been for months, and saw Lily's name lighting up the screen. My daughter. My entire world compressed into 3 years of sunshine and sticky hands and laughter that could crack open the darkest days. The photo she'd sent made my chest constrict. She was wearing the yellow dress I'd bought at the thrift store, the one with the sunflowers, grinning at the camera with that gap-toothed smile that destroyed me every single time. My mother had taken the picture, probably in the small backyard of her house where Lily spent her days while I worked double shifts to keep us afloat. I meant to send it to Sarah, my only friend from nursing school. Sarah, who always asked for pictures, who'd promised to take Lily to the zoo next weekend if I could get the day off. My fingers moved on autopilot, selecting the contact, hitting send, before my exhausted brain could register the mistake. The message went through with that soft whoosh sound. I glanced at the screen. My blood turned to ice water. The contact name stared back at me, and it wasn't Sarah's. It was a number I didn't recognize, one that must have been added recently. Maybe a wrong number I'd saved accidentally, or spam that had slipped through. But it wasn't Sarah. The photo of my daughter, my precious Lily, had just been sent to a complete stranger. Shit, I whispered, my hand flying to my mouth. My hand. Around me, the hospital continued its mechanical rhythm, the beep of monitors, the shuffle of feet, the distant wail of a newborn, but I stood frozen in the middle of the hallway, staring at my phone like it had just detonated. I typed frantically. Wrong number. So sorry. Please delete that photo. The 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Someone was typing. My heart hammered against my ribs, each beat painful and too fast. Who responds this quickly? Who even... The message came through, and the words on the screen made the floor tilt beneath my feet. Where are you? 2 words. Simple. Direct. But there was something in those words that reached through the screen and wrapped around my throat. Not, who is this? Or cute kid? Or any normal response a stranger might give. Just, where are you? My fingers hovered over the keyboard, shaking harder now. This was wrong. Everything about this felt wrong. The speed of the response, the question itself, the way those 2 words seemed to carry weight, authority, expectation. This was a mistake, I typed back. Please delete the photo and forget this happened. The 3 dots again. Faster this time. I asked you a question. The air in my lungs turned solid. I could hear my pulse in my ears now, a drumbeat of panic that drowned out the hospital sounds. This wasn't normal. This wasn't how strangers communicated. There was something else here, something dark sliding beneath the surface of those simple messages. I should have blocked the number, should have deleted the conversation and reported it. Should have done anything except stand there, paralyzed, watching those 3 dots pulse on the screen like a heartbeat. But I didn't. Because in that moment, staring at those words, I felt the strangest sensation. Like I'd just stepped off a cliff, and the ground was rushing up to meet me, and there was absolutely nothing I could do to stop the fall. The phone buzzed again. You have 30 seconds to answer me, or I'll find you myself. I deleted the messages with shaking hands and shoved my phone deep into my pocket, as if physical distance could somehow undo what I'd done. The medication cart sat abandoned beside me, its metal frame reflecting the harsh corridor lights. I needed to move, needed to finish my rounds, needed to pretend that my world hadn't just tilted sideways because of a stupid, careless mistake. but my legs wouldn't cooperate. "Emma?" A voice cut through my paralysis. Dr. Rivera, one of the attending physicians, stood at the nurse's station with a clipboard, his eyebrows raised. "You okay? You look pale." "Fine," I managed, forcing my feet to move, pushing the cart forward. "Just tired." He nodded, already looking back at his notes, already dismissing me. Invisible again. I made it through the rest of my shift on autopilot, my hands performing their familiar tasks while my mind spun in circles. It was probably nothing. Just some creep who got lucky with a random message. He couldn't possibly find me. I hadn't given him anything. No name, no location, no information beyond a single photo of a little girl in a sunflower dress. But those words kept echoing. "I'll find you myself." By the time I clocked out at midnight, my whole body ached. The employee parking lot was poorly lit, shadows pooling between the few scattered cars. My ancient Honda sat in the far corner, exactly where I always parked it because the spots closer to the entrance cost extra in the monthly pass I couldn't afford. The November air bit through my thin jacket as I hurried across the asphalt, keys already in hand. My breath came out in small clouds, and somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. The city never truly slept, but this industrial area near the hospital grew quiet enough at night to let you hear your own footsteps, your own breathing, your own fear. I was 10 feet from my car when I saw him. He stood beside a black SUV, not the massive, aggressive kind that screamed compensation, but something sleek and expensive, its surface so polished it looked wet under the parking lot lights. At first, I couldn't make out his features, just his silhouette. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing what looked like a dark suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. But it was his stillness that stopped me. He wasn't checking his phone, or looking around impatiently, or doing any of the normal things people do while waiting. He was simply standing there, watching. And even from this distance, even in the inadequate light, I could feel the weight of his gaze like a physical thing. My survival instincts screamed at me to turn around, to go back inside, to find security. But my car was right there, and I was exhausted. And probably I was just being paranoid. Probably he was waiting for someone else. Probably he hadn't even noticed me. I kept walking, keeping my eyes down, fumbling with my keys. "Excuse me." His voice cut through the night air, smooth and low, with an accent I couldn't quite place. Something European, maybe Italian, wrapped around perfectly articulated English. I should have kept walking, should have ignored him. I stopped. "Yes?" My voice came out smaller than I intended, and I hated myself for it. He moved then, stepping away from the SUV, and the parking lot light finally caught his face. My breath tangled in my throat. He was young, maybe 30 at most, with dark hair styled with casual precision, sharp cheekbones, and eyes so dark they looked black in the shadows. But it wasn't his beauty that made my pulse stutter. It was the way he carried himself, the way the air around him seemed to thicken with unspoken authority, the way everything about him whispered danger wrapped in expensive tailoring. "I think you sent me something tonight." He pulled out a phone, not a cheap Android like mine, but something sleek and sophisticated, and turned the screen toward me. Lily's face smiled up at me from his display. The world contracted to a single point of horrible understanding. "How did you—" I couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't breathe properly. "How did I find you?" He slipped the phone back into his pocket, and I noticed the way his suit jacket moved, the perfect cut that probably hid more than just an expensive watch. "You sent me a photograph. I made a phone call. You work at St. Catherine's Hospital, night shift, usually park in the back corner to save money." He took another step closer, and I could smell him now. Something clean and dark, bergamot maybe, mixed with something else, something that made my hindbrain scream predator. "Your name is Emma Hartwell. You're 26 years old. You have a 3-year-old daughter named Lily. You live with your mother in a rental house on Maple Street because you can't afford your own place on a nurse's salary." Each word was a hammer blow, each detail a violation. "You also," he continued, his voice dropping lower, softer, somehow more terrifying in its gentleness, "look exhausted, underpaid, and like you're one bad day away from breaking." Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "What do you want?" "To know why you sent me that photograph." "I told you. Wrong number. It was a mistake. Mistakes, he said, have consequences. The SUV's door opened then, and another man emerged, older, built like a concrete wall, with a scar running down his jaw. He didn't say anything, just positioned himself nearby, hands clasped in front of him. A bodyguard, of course. "I don't have money," I whispered. "I don't have anything. Please, just delete the photo and—" "I don't want your money, Emma." The way he said my name made my skin prickle, like he was tasting it, learning its shape. "But I am curious about something. The father of your daughter, where is he?" The question hit me like a fist to the stomach. "That's none of your business. Humor me." "Why would I—" "Because," he interrupted, his dark eyes holding mine with an intensity that made it impossible to look away. "I've been looking for someone. A man who stole from me. A man who disappeared 3 years ago with something very valuable." He tilted his head slightly, studying me like I was a puzzle he was solving in real time. "A man who might have had a reason to run, to hide, to start over." "Oh God. I don't know what you're talking about," I said, but my voice betrayed me, shaking on every word. "His name was Marcus Reed, though he might have used a different name with you. Tall, blonde, charming, very charming. The kind of man who could make you believe anything." He paused, letting that sink in. "The kind of man who could convince a smart, careful woman to let her guard down long enough to stop." The word came out as barely more than a breath. But he didn't stop. He moved closer instead, closing the distance between us until I could see the flecks of amber in those dark eyes, could feel the heat radiating from his body, despite the November chill. "The photograph you sent me," he said quietly, "shows a little girl who has his eyes, his smile, his features mixed with yours." His hand came up, and I flinched, but he didn't touch me. Just pointed at my phone, still clutched in my trembling fingers. "So I'll ask you one more time, Emma. Where is he?" "Dead." The word ripped out of me. "He's dead. Car accident. 6 months after Lily was born." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or calculation. "You're certain?" I identified the body. The memory rose up, bitter and sharp. Marcus in that morgue drawer, his beautiful face finally still, finally quiet, finally done destroying everything he touched. "So whatever he stole from you, whatever you think I don't think you were involved." His interruption was soft, but absolute. "I think you were used. I think he saw an opportunity, a lonely woman, someone vulnerable, someone he could manipulate and abandon." His jaw tightened. "I think you're exactly the kind of collateral damage men like Marcus leave behind." The tears came then, hot and humiliating, tracking down my cheeks before I could stop them. Because he was right. Because Marcus had been exactly that kind of man, charming and dangerous, and ultimately hollow, leaving nothing behind but debt and a daughter, and the kind of shame that still woke me up at 3 a.m, gasping. "Please," I whispered. "Please just leave us alone. We have nothing to do with whatever—" "I can't do that." The world tilted again. "What?" "You sent me that photograph, Emma. Whether by accident or fate or simple carelessness, you connected yourself to me, and I don't leave loose ends." He studied me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "Besides, Marcus stole $2 million from me. Your daughter, his daughter, is now the closest thing I have to leverage, to closure, to justice." Terror flooded through me, sharp and chemical. "You can't. She's just a baby. She doesn't—" "I'm not going to hurt her." His hand finally made contact, fingers catching my chin, tilting my face up to meet his gaze. His touch was surprisingly gentle, which somehow made it worse. "But I am going to make sure you understand something very clearly. You and Lily? You're under my protection now. No arguments, no running, no police." His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, wiping away a tear. "You belong to me now, Emma, both of you." I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, that perfect, terrifying face, those dark eyes that had catalogued every vulnerability, every fear. His words circled in my mind like vultures. "You belong to me now." I'd driven home in a daze, checking my rearview mirror obsessively, half expecting to see the black SUV following. But the streets had been empty, just scattered headlights and traffic signals bleeding red into the November darkness. When I finally pulled into my mother's driveway, my hands were still shaking so badly I could barely turn off the ignition. Mom was asleep on the couch, the television playing some late-night infomercial on mute. I'd tiptoed past her, past the familiar worn furniture and the photographs on the wall. Lily's baby pictures, my high school graduation, the life we'd cobbled together from thrift store, fines and determination. Everything looked different now, tainted by the knowledge that he knew where we lived, knew everything about us. I'd checked on Lily 3 times before finally collapsing into bed, still wearing my scrubs. She slept like she always did, sprawled across her toddler bed with her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest, her mouth slightly open, completely oblivious to the danger that had just walked into our lives. Now at 6 a.m, I sat at the kitchen table nursing cold coffee and trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do. Call the police? And tell them what? That a stranger found me after I accidentally sent him a photo? That he'd made vague threats wrapped in promises of protection? They'd think I was insane, or paranoid, or both. Run. With what money? With what resources? And run where? He'd found me in less than 6 hours. What made me think I could disappear? You look terrible. Mom shuffled into the kitchen, her bathrobe tied loosely over her nightgown, gray hair sticking up in every direction. At 62, she looked older than she should, worn down by years of raising me alone after Dad left, then helping me raise Lily after Marcus died. Rough shift? Something like that. I wrapped my hands around the coffee mug, seeking warmth that wouldn't come. She poured herself a cup and sat across from me, her weathered hands cradling the mug the same way mine did. We'd always been similar like that, small gestures, shared habits. Emma, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm just tired. Don't lie to me, baby. I've known you for 26 years. I can tell when something's eating at you. I opened my mouth to deflect, to reassure, to maintain the carefully constructed fiction that everything was manageable. But exhaustion stripped away my defenses, and the words came tumbling out. I made a mistake last night, a really bad mistake. What kind of mistake? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed on the table between us. Unknown number. My stomach dropped. I grabbed it, my mother's concerned gaze burning into me as I opened the message. Good morning, Emma. I trust you slept well. The casual cruelty of it made my jaw clench. I typed back quickly, leave me alone. The response came within seconds. Check your bank account. My mother was saying something, asking questions I couldn't process. I opened my banking app with numb fingers, waited for it to load, and then stared at the screen in disbelief. The account that usually hovered dangerously close to overdraft now showed a balance of $50,000. What the hell? I whispered. Consider it a down payment, his next message read. For the inconvenience, for your cooperation, for understanding that fighting me would be significantly more expensive than accepting my generosity. Emma, you're scaring me. Mom reached across the table, her hand covering mine. What's happening? Another message. I'll be in touch. Don't do anything foolish. I set the phone down carefully, as if it might explode. I need to tell you something, and I need you to stay calm. The explanation took 20 minutes, interrupted constantly by my mother's questions, her disbelief, her rising panic. I told her everything. The accidental photo, the parking lot confrontation, his knowledge of Marcus, his claim that Lily was somehow connected to stolen money. What I didn't tell her was the way his touch had felt against my skin, the way his voice had wrapped around my name, the strange, shameful flutter in my stomach when he'd said I belonged to him. We need to call the police, Mom said immediately, already reaching for her phone. No. I caught her wrist. He said no police. And Mom, he found me in 6 hours. He knows where we live, where I work, everything. Men like that don't make empty threats. Men like what? Emma, who is this person? I swallowed hard. I think he's connected to organized crime. The way he carried himself, the bodyguard, the money. He's not just some random criminal. He's someone powerful, someone dangerous. She pulled her hand back, her face going pale. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is because of Marcus, isn't it? That bastard is still ruining our lives, even from the grave. I know. What does he want from you? I don't know exactly. He said we're under his protection now, that we belong to him. The words tasted wrong in my mouth. Too intimate, too possessive. I think he sees us as some kind of asset, or liability, or... Lily's voice cut through the tension, high and bright from down the hallway. Mommy, I'm awake. We both froze, looking at each other across the table. In that moment, the full weight of the situation crystallized. This wasn't just about me anymore. Whatever happened next, whatever this man wanted, Lily was caught in the middle of it. We protect her, Mom said fiercely. Whatever it takes. I know. Even if that means... She gestured at my phone. Even if that means cooperating with him? I don't think we have a choice. 3 days passed in agonizing limbo. I went to work, came home, took care of Lily, and waited for the other shoe to drop. The money sat in my bank account like a ticking bomb. I didn't touch it, didn't transfer it, didn't spend a single dollar of it. He didn't contact me again. Somehow, that was worse than the messages. The silence felt like a held breath, like the pause before thunder. I caught myself checking my phone compulsively, jumping at every notification, searching the hospital parking lot for black SUVs. On the 4th day, Dr. Rivera pulled me aside during my shift. Emma, can I talk to you for a minute? My heart rate spiked. Of course. He led me into an empty conference room, his expression concerned. Are you okay? You've seemed distracted lately, distant. I'm fine. Just some personal stuff. Listen, I don't want to overstep, but I got a strange phone call yesterday. Someone asking about your schedule, your performance, whether you were reliable. He frowned. I didn't give them any information, patient privacy and employee protection and all that, but it was odd. Very odd. The man was polite, professional, but there was something... Something what? Something that made me feel like I shouldn't ask too many questions. He met my eyes. Emma, if you're in some kind of trouble, there are resources, people who can help. I forced a smile that probably looked more like a grimace. Thank you, Dr. Rivera. Really. But I'm okay. He didn't look convinced, but he nodded. All right, but if you need anything, I'll let you know. After he left, I locked myself in the staff bathroom and pressed my forehead against the cool tile wall. He was checking up on me, monitoring me, making sure I was where I was supposed to be, doing what I was supposed to do. The $50,000 wasn't generosity. It was a leash disguised as a gift. My phone buzzed. Tomorrow night. 8 p.m. I'm sending a car for you. My fingers trembled as I typed, I have work. Not anymore. I've arranged for you to have the evening off. The car will pick you up at your house. Why? Because we need to talk. And because I want to see you again. That last line did something strange to my insides. Something that felt dangerously close to anticipation mixed with dread. I hated myself for it. What if I refuse? The 3 dots pulsed for a long moment before his response appeared. Then I'll come to you, and I promise you won't like the alternative as much. I stared at the message, reading between the lines. This wasn't a request. It was a command dressed up as an invitation. Fine, I typed back. But I need to be home by midnight. My daughter will be perfectly safe with your mother. I'm not a monster, Emma, despite what you might think. The conversation ended there, but I stood in that bathroom for another 10 minutes, trying to calm my racing heart, trying to understand why part of me, a small, shameful part, was almost looking forward to seeing him again. The next evening, I changed clothes 4 times before settling on dark jeans and a burgundy sweater. Nothing too revealing, nothing that looked like I was trying too hard. Mom watched me from the doorway with worried eyes, Lily perched on her hip. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. Yes, I do. Emma. Mom, please, just stay inside with Lily. Lock the doors. Don't answer for anyone except me. I kissed Lily's forehead, breathing in her little girl scent of strawberry shampoo and innocence. Be good for Grandma, okay, baby? Where you going, Mommy? Her small hand patted my cheek. Just a meeting. I'll be back soon. Promise? The word stuck in my throat, because I couldn't promise, couldn't guarantee anything anymore. I promise I'll try my best. At exactly 8 o'clock, headlights swept across our front windows. I peered through the curtain and saw not the black SUV from the hospital, but a different vehicle. A sleek black sedan with tinted windows, equally expensive, equally intimidating. That's my ride. I grabbed my purse with shaking hands. Mom caught my arm. If you're not back by 1 a.m., I'm calling the police. I don't care what he said. Okay. I mean it, Emma. I know. I love you. The November air bit through my sweater as I walked down the driveway. The sedan's back door opened before I reached it, and a man in a dark suit stepped out. Not the scarred bodyguard from the parking lot, but someone new, equally large, equally professional. Miss Hartwell? He said with a slight accent. Russian, maybe. Please. I climbed into the back seat, my heart hammering. The interior smelled like leather and that same bergamot scent I remembered from the parking lot. The door closed with a heavy, final sound. And there he was. He sat on the opposite side of the back seat, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car, his dark eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made breathing difficult. In the confined space, his presence felt overwhelming, too big, too commanding, too everything. Hello, Emma. His voice was exactly as I remembered, smooth and dangerous. Where are we going? I tried to keep my voice steady, somewhere we can talk privately. He leaned forward slightly, and I caught the full force of that bergamot scent, mixed with something darker, more masculine. You look terrified. I am terrified. Good. A small smile curved his lips. Fear keeps you honest, keeps you careful. The car pulled away from the curb, moving smoothly through the darkening streets. But you should know that I meant what I said. I'm not going to hurt you. You threatened my daughter. I said she was leverage. I never said I'd harm her. He adjusted his cufflinks, platinum, I noticed, with some kind of engraved design. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. No, I suppose not. He studied me for a long moment, his gaze traveling over my face, my hair, my nervous hands clasped in my lap. Tell me about Marcus. Why? Because I want to understand what kind of man could be stupid enough to steal from me and careless enough to leave someone like you behind. Someone like me. Brave. Resilient. Beautiful in a way that has nothing to do with makeup or expensive clothes. He said it matter-of-factly, like he was commenting on the weather, the kind of woman who deserves better than what he gave you. Heat flooded my cheeks. You don't know anything about me. I know you work double shifts to support your daughter and your mother. I know you've been paying off Marcus's debts for 3 years, debts he accumulated through gambling and poor investments. I know you haven't dated anyone since he died because you're too exhausted and too afraid of making the same mistake twice. He leaned back, his expression unreadable. I know everything about you, Emma. Every struggle, every sacrifice, every moment of strength. That's not knowing me. That's just collecting information, maybe. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at it briefly before silencing it. But I'm willing to learn the difference, if you'll let me. The implications of that statement made my stomach flip. I don't understand what you want from me, honestly. He turned to look out the window at the city lights sliding past. Neither do I. Not entirely. But when I saw that photograph, when I traced it back to you and realized who you were connected to, something shifted. He looked back at me, and there was something raw in his expression. Something almost vulnerable. Marcus Reed destroyed a significant portion of my business. He betrayed my trust, and then he died before I could exact justice. His jaw tightened. But you're still here. You and his daughter. And I find myself wanting something I can't quite name. What? The word came out as barely a whisper. Restitution. Closure. Possession. He said the last word like it tasted dangerous on his tongue. The chance to take something that was his and make it mine instead. My breath caught. I'm not a thing to be taken. No. He agreed. You're not, which makes this significantly more complicated than I anticipated. The car turned down an unfamiliar street, heading toward the upscale part of the city where I'd never belonged. Buildings grew taller, lights brighter, the streets cleaner. This was his world. Money and power and the kind of danger that wore expensive suits and drove luxury vehicles. I still don't know your name, I said suddenly. He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his face from intimidating to devastating. No, you don't. How rude of me. He extended his hand across the seat, and I noticed the ring on his pinky finger, thick gold with an emblem I couldn't make out in the dim light. Dante Castellano, though most people call me Mr. Castellano, or Sir, or nothing at all if they're smart. I took his hand, feeling the strength in his grip, the warmth of his skin. Emma Hartwell. Though you already knew that, Emma. He said my name like he was learning a new language, testing its shape. It suits you. Simple, classic, beautiful. He didn't let go of my hand. The car pulled up to a building that looked like it had been carved from glass and steel, all clean lines and understated wealth. A doorman in a pristine uniform opened the sedan door before I could reach for the handle myself, nodding deferentially at Dante as we emerged into the cold night air. This way. Dante's hand found the small of my back, guiding me through the marble lobby. His touch burned through the fabric of my sweater, proprietary and possessive in a way that should have repulsed me, but instead sent heat pooling low in my stomach. The elevator was all mirrors and ambient lighting, playing soft classical music that felt surreal after the silence of the car ride. I caught my reflection. Pale face, wide eyes, hair falling around my shoulders because I'd left it down instead of pulling it back like I usually did. I looked young, fragile, completely out of place next to Dante's dark elegance, penthouse. He said to no one, and the elevator began its smooth ascent without him pressing a button. Biometric recognition, probably. The kind of security that cost more than I made in a year. You live here? My voice sounded too loud in the enclosed space. One of several properties. This one is convenient for business. His reflection watched mine in the mirrored walls, and private enough for conversations I'd prefer to keep confidential. The elevator opened directly into an apartment that stole my breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, the lights spreading out like a galaxy of possibilities I'd never touch. The furniture was modern and minimal, sharp edges and neutral colors, but expensive in that way that whispered rather than shouted. Abstract art hung on the walls, pieces I recognized vaguely from hospital waiting room magazines, the kind that sold for hundreds of thousands at auction. Wine? Dante moved to a bar that looked like it belonged in a 5-star restaurant, pulling out a bottle I couldn't read the label of. I don't drink. He paused, glancing back at me. Smart. Especially given the circumstances. He returned the bottle and poured himself 2 fingers of amber liquid instead. Whiskey, probably. Something aged and obscenely priced. Water, then. Please. He handed me a glass of sparkling water in crystal, so fine I was afraid to grip it too hard. Our fingers brushed during the exchange, and I saw his eyes darken slightly at the contact. Sit, he said, gesturing to the leather sofa that faced the windows. We have much to discuss. I perched on the edge of the cushion, unable to relax, while he settled into the chair across from me with predatory grace. The city lights behind him turned him into a silhouette, all sharp edges and shadows. Marcus worked for me, he began without preamble. 4 years ago, I brought him into my organization because he was charming, clever, and had a talent for making people trust him, useful qualities in my line of work. He sipped his whiskey, the ice clinking softly. What I didn't realize was that he was also greedy, reckless, and fundamentally disloyal. What kind of organization? I already knew the answer, but I needed to hear him say it. The kind that operates in the spaces between legal and illegal. The kind that requires absolute trust and absolute loyalty. His gaze held mine. The kind most people call the Mafia, though I prefer to think of it as a family business with traditional values. The confirmation settled over me like a weight. And Marcus stole from this family business. $2 million to be precise. Money that belonged to people far more dangerous than me. People I'd vouched for him to. Dante's jaw tightened, the first crack in his composed exterior. He disappeared before I could recover the funds, before I could explain to my associates why their investment had vanished, before I could salvage my reputation. So you've been looking for him for 3 years. And then he died in that car accident, taking the location of the money with him. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, the whiskey glass dangling from his fingers. Do you know what it's like, Emma? To have someone betray you so completely that it damages everything you've built? Everything you are? I thought of Marcus's lies, his charm that had blinded me to reality, the way he'd disappeared for days at a time, always with excuses I'd wanted to believe, the debts he'd left behind that I was still drowning in. Yes, I whispered. I know exactly what that's like. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. Then you comprehend why I can't simply let this go. Why seeing his daughter's face on my phone felt like the universe offering me a second chance at closure. Lily is innocent. She never knew him. She has nothing to do with... I know. He set down his glass and stood, moving to the windows. The city lights painted him in shades of gold and shadow, which is why I'm not interested in punishing her, or even you, despite your connection to him. He turned back, and the intensity in his eyes made my pulse stutter. But I am interested in ensuring that Marcus's debts, financial and otherwise, are properly settled. I've been paying them off, every month. It takes almost everything I earn, but I'm doing it. Those are the legitimate debts. The ones he accumulated through legal channels. Dante walked back toward me, each step measured and deliberate. I'm talking about the debt he owes me. The debt that can't be repaid with money because the money is gone, and my reputation was damaged. He stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact, close enough that his scent surrounded me, making it hard to think clearly. So, how do I pay it? My voice came out breathier than I intended. You let me into your life. You accept my protection, my resources, my interest. His hand came up, fingers trailing along my jaw with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. You give me what he took away, trust, loyalty, something real instead of the lies he sold. That's not how debts work. In my world, debts work however I decide they work. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, and I hated how my breath hitched at the contact. And I've decided that I want you, Emma, not as punishment, not as restitution, but because from the moment I saw that photograph, from the moment I found you in that parking lot looking exhausted and terrified and still somehow defiant, I couldn't stop thinking about you. You don't know me. Then let me learn. He pulled back slightly, giving me space to breathe. I'm not asking for your love. I'm not even asking for your willing participation, though I'd prefer it. I'm simply stating facts. You and Lily are under my protection now. I've already made arrangements, paid off all of Marcus's remaining debts, established a trust fund for Lily's education, ensured your mother's house will never be at risk of foreclosure. The words hit me like physical blows. Why would you do that? Because I can. Because it serves my purposes. Because... He hesitated, and for the first time, I saw uncertainty flicker across his features. Because the alternative is unacceptable to me. What alternative? Watching you struggle. Watching you work yourself to exhaustion. Watching Lily grow up without the opportunities she deserves because her father was a selfish bastard who cared more about money than his own family. His voice had gone rough, almost angry. I may be many things, Emma, but I'm not the kind of man who punishes children for their parents' sins. I stood abruptly, needing distance, needing to think. I walked to the windows, pressing my palm against the cold glass. The city sprawled below, millions of people living their normal lives, unaware that somewhere in this tower, a Mafia boss was claiming ownership of a broken nurse and her daughter. This is insane, I said to my reflection. Probably. He appeared beside me, his reflection merging with mine in the glass. But insanity seems to be my specialty lately. I can't just belong to you. That's not how life works, isn't it? His hand came to rest on the glass beside mine, not touching, but close enough to feel the heat. You already belong to the hospital, to your mother's needs, to Lily's future, to Marcus's debts. All I'm doing is redistributing that ownership to someone who will actually take care of you in return. That's not the same thing. No, he agreed quietly. It's better, because I don't take without giving back. Because I protect what's mine with everything I have. Because unlike Marcus, I don't make promises I can't keep. I turned to face him and found him closer than I'd realized. Close enough to see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, the almost imperceptible shadow of stubble along his jaw, the way his pupils dilated slightly when I met his gaze. What if I say no? The question hung between us, fragile and dangerous. Then I'll be disappointed. But I'll still ensure you're protected, you're provided for, you're safe. His hand finally made contact, fingers threading through my hair with surprising gentleness. Because whether you accept it or not, Emma, you're mine now. That photograph created a connection between us, and I don't sever connections lightly. That's not romantic. That's terrifying. I never claimed to be romantic. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I claimed to be honest, and honestly. The thought of anyone else touching you, threatening you, hurting you, it makes me want to burn the world down. My heart hammered so hard I was certain he could hear it. You're talking about possession, obsession. Yes. The single word, delivered with absolute certainty, should have sent me running, should have triggered every survival instinct I possessed. Instead, something dark and shameful unfurled in my chest. A recognition of the security his obsession offered. The twisted appeal of being wanted so completely by someone so powerful. I need to think, I managed. Of course. He stepped back, the loss of his proximity leaving me oddly cold. Take all the time you need, but know that my protection starts immediately regardless of your decision. I've already assigned security to your house. Discreet, invisible, but present. No one will hurt you or Lily. No one will even breathe wrong in your direction. That's still controlling. It's survival. Marcus made enemies, Emma. Enemies who might eventually discover that he left behind a family. Enemies who wouldn't hesitate to use you to send a message. His expression hardened. I'm ensuring that message never needs to be sent. A chill ran down my spine. You think someone might come after us? I think it's better to be prepared than to regret inaction. He walked back to the bar, refilling his whiskey. Which is why, starting tomorrow, you'll notice some changes. A new car. Nothing flashy, but safe and reliable. Security at the hospital during your shifts. Regular check-ins from my people. I didn't agree to any of this. You didn't have to. The moment Marcus betrayed me, the moment he created Lily, the moment you sent me that photograph. The wheels were already in motion. He raised his glass in a mock toast. Welcome to my world, Emma. I promise it's more comfortable than the one you've been surviving in. I wanted to argue. Wanted to rage against the arrogance, the presumption, the complete disregard for my autonomy. But exhaustion crashed over me like a wave. Exhaustion from years of struggling, years of barely keeping my head above water, years of being invisible and powerless. Can I go home now? My voice sounded small, defeated. Of course. He pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. The car is waiting downstairs, but Emma? He looked up, catching my gaze. This isn't over. This is barely beginning. The ride home was silent. I sat in the back of the sedan, staring out at the passing streets, trying to process everything that had happened. The driver, the same Russian man from earlier, said nothing, just drove with professional efficiency. When we pulled up to my house, every light was blazing. Mom had obviously been pacing, worrying, probably calling my phone every 5 minutes. It was barely 10:30, well before my promised 1 a.m. deadline. But it felt like I'd been gone for days. Thank you, I said quietly to the driver. He nodded once. Mr. Castellano says to tell you that someone will be watching tonight. You're safe. The words should have been comforting. Instead, they felt like a cage door closing. Mom yanked the door open before I reached it, pulling me inside and immediately checking me over like I might be injured. Oh, thank God. I was so worried. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? What happened? I'm fine. I let her fuss, too tired to protest. Where's Lily? Asleep. She went down an hour ago. Mom's hands gripped my shoulders, her eyes searching mine. Emma, what did he want? I sank onto the couch, the events of the evening finally catching up with me. He wants us. Under his protection. He's already paid off all of Marcus's debts, arranged security, Set up a trust fund for Lily. What? Mom sat beside me, her face pale. Why would he do that? Because Marcus stole from him, because he sees us as connected to that debt. Because... I swallowed hard. Because he wants me. Wants you how? I don't know exactly. But it's not just about money or revenge. It's something else. Something darker. I pulled my knees up to my chest, wrapping my arms around He says we belong to him now. Mom was quiet for a long moment. Then, how do you feel about that? The question surprised me. I'd expected outrage, fear, demands that we call the police immediately. Instead, she was asking about my feelings. Terrified, I admitted, but also relieved. God, that sounds insane, doesn't it? But Mom, we've been drowning for so long. Every month is a struggle. Every bill is a crisis. And he just fixed it. All of it. With a phone call. At what cost? I don't know yet. Maybe my freedom. Maybe my safety. Maybe just my dignity. I laughed bitterly. But what dignity did I have left anyway? Working double shifts for poverty wages, raising my daughter in your house because I can't afford my own, paying off debts for a dead man who never loved me. Emma, he says he'll protect us, that no one will hurt Lily, that I can stop worrying about money and security and all the things that keep me up at night. Tears pricked my eyes. Is it so wrong that part of me wants to believe him? Mom pulled me against her shoulder the way she used to when I was small. No, baby, it's not wrong. It's human, but you need to be careful. Men like that, men with that kind of power, they don't give without expecting something in return. I know. And whatever he wants from you, it'll probably cost more than you think you can afford to give. I know that too. We sat there in silence, the television playing its late-night noise, the house settling around us. Somewhere outside, invisible and watchful, Dante's security kept guard. The cage was already built. The only question now was whether I'd walk into it willingly, or wait for him to carry me in. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out with trembling fingers. Sleep well, Emma. Tomorrow, we begin properly. I stared at the message, reading the promise and threat woven into those simple words. Tomorrow. The word felt weighted with inevitability. I typed back before I could stop myself. What happens tomorrow? His response came quickly. You start learning what it means to be mine. Morning came too quickly, gray light filtering through my bedroom curtains like an unwelcome visitor. I'd managed maybe 3 hours of sleep, my mind churning through scenarios, consequences, escape routes that all led nowhere. Every time I'd closed my eyes, I saw Dante's face. Those dark eyes that seemed to catalog every vulnerability, that hand threading through my hair with possessive gentleness. My phone showed 2 missed calls from the hospital and a text from Dr. Rivera. Taking you off the schedule for this week per administration request. Hope everything is okay. Administration request. Right. More like Dante pulling strings I couldn't see, rearranging my life to suit whatever plans he had. Anger flickered in my chest, hot and futile. Another message. This one from an unknown number. Car arrives at 9 a.m. Dress comfortably. We have appointments. I glanced at the clock. 7:30. 90 minutes to shower, dress, and pretend I had any control over what was happening. Lily's laughter drifted from the kitchen, mixing with Mom's patient voice as they made breakfast together. The normalcy of it felt surreal against the backdrop of everything that had changed. I wanted to grab them both, pack whatever we could carry and run. But Dante's words echoed. I'll find you myself, and I believed him. The shower water scalded my skin, but I welcomed the pain. Something real. Something I could control. When I finally emerged, wrapped in a towel with my hair dripping down my back, I found clothes laid out on my bed that definitely weren't mine. Dark jeans that looked expensive, a cream cashmere sweater softer than anything I'd ever owned, leather boots that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. A note card sat on top, heavy cardstock with elegant handwriting. You deserve to wear things that weren't bought at discount stores. My hands shook as I picked up the sweater. Part of me wanted to throw it all in the trash, to put on my worn Target jeans and stained hoodie as an act of defiance. But another part, the part that had been invisible and exhausted for so long, wanted to know what it felt like to wear something beautiful. I compromised by keeping my own underwear, my own bra. Small rebellions in a war I was already losing. The clothes fit perfectly, which shouldn't have surprised me but did. He'd known my size without asking, probably from the same invasive research that had given him every other detail of my life. The boots hugged my calves, the jeans actually flattered instead of just covering. When I looked in the bathroom mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. Polished, put together, like someone who belonged in Dante's world of marble lobbies and penthouse views. Wow. Mom stood in the doorway, Lily on her hip. You look different, I finished. Beautiful, she corrected. But Emma, those clothes. I know. I kissed Lily's cheek, breathing in her familiar scent. I know what it means. Do you? Mom's eyes were worried, because it looks like he's already changing you. He's changing my circumstances, not me. Those are the same thing, baby. Maybe they were. Maybe Dante understood that better than I did, that controlling someone's circumstances was just another form of control, subtler, but no less absolute. At exactly 9 a.m., a knock sounded at the door. Not the aggressive pounding of someone demanding entry, just 3 measured taps that somehow conveyed more authority than shouting ever could. I opened it to find a woman standing on the porch. She was maybe 40, with sharp features and immaculate styling. Dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, designer suit, heels that added 3 inches to her already impressive height. Everything about her screamed professional efficiency. Emma Hartwell? Her accent was crisp, Eastern European. I'm Katya. Mr. Castellano sent me to escort you today. I thought there'd be a car. There is. She gestured to the street where a sleek black Mercedes waited, identical to yesterday's sedan but somehow more intimidating in daylight. I'll be accompanying you to your appointments. What appointments? Mr. Castellano will explain. Katya's expression remained neutral, but I caught the steel underneath. This wasn't a woman who answered questions she wasn't authorized to answer. We should go. He doesn't appreciate lateness. I looked back at Mom, who held Lily tighter. I'll call you, I promised. Every hour if I can. You better. Katya waited patiently while I grabbed my purse, my old, worn purse that clashed horribly with the expensive clothes. Another small rebellion. As we walked to the car, I noticed a second vehicle parked across the street, windows tinted, engine running. Security, always watching. How long have you worked for him? I asked, as we settled into the Mercedes leather interior. 7 years. Katya's tone didn't invite further conversation, but I pushed anyway. And what exactly do you do, whatever Mr. Castellano requires? She glanced at me, her expression softening slightly. Today, that means ensuring you're comfortable and safe. Am I a prisoner? No. The answer came without hesitation. Prisoners don't wear cashmere. Fair point. The drive took us deeper into the city's wealthy district, past boutiques and galleries I'd only seen in magazines. We pulled up to a building with a discreet gold plaque, Bellissima Day Spa, by appointment only. Why are we here? Panic fluttered in my chest. I don't need... Mr. Castellano believes you deserve an afternoon of care. Katya's phone buzzed and she glanced at it. He's inside waiting. Of course he was. The spa's interior was all white marble and soft lighting, the air perfumed with lavender and something else, something expensive I couldn't name. Dante stood near the reception desk in dark slacks and a black shirt, no tie, the top button undone. He looked younger this way, more approachable, though no less dangerous. His eyes traveled over me, cataloging the clothes he'd sent. The way they fit. Perfect, he murmured. I knew that color would suit you. What is this? I gestured around us. What are we doing here? You're getting pampered. Massage, facial, hair treatment, whatever you want. He moved closer, and I caught that bergamot scent again. When's the last time someone took care of you, Emma? The question hit harder than it should have. I couldn't remember. Before Marcus, maybe. Before Lily. Before my entire life became about survival instead of living. I don't need this, I said. But my voice lacked conviction. Perhaps not. But you deserve it. His hand found my lower back again, that possessive touch that made my spine tingle. Humor me. Let someone care for you for a few hours. A woman in a pristine white uniform appeared, smiling warmly. Ms. Hartwell, we're ready for you. I looked at Dante, searching for the angle, the trap hidden in this apparent kindness. But his expression was unreadable, giving nothing away. Go, he said softly. I'll be here when you're done. 3 hours later, I emerged from a cocoon of luxury, feeling like a different person. They'd massaged tension from muscles I hadn't realized were knotted, applied treatments that made my skin impossibly soft, styled my hair into glossy waves that actually looked intentional instead of chaotic. My nails, always ragged from hospital work, were now manicured and painted a subtle nude that somehow made my hands look elegant. Dante stood exactly where I'd left him, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. When he saw me, he ended the call mid-sentence. Beautiful, he said simply, and the heat in his gaze made my stomach flip. This doesn't change anything, I said, trying to maintain some distance, some resistance. Doesn't it? He offered his arm like we were on some perverse date. You look more relaxed, less like you're carrying the world on your shoulders, because you've temporarily taken the weight. But it's still there, isn't it? You're just holding it hostage until I give you what you want. Something flickered in his expression. Respect, maybe. At least you understand the game. Is that what this is? A game? Everything is a game, Emma. The question is whether you're playing to win or just trying not to lose. He guided me back to the Mercedes, Katya already waiting with the door open. Next stop. Where? You'll see. The drive took us to a high-rise downtown, all glass and steel and modern architecture. The building's lobby was filled with people in expensive suits carrying briefcases and tablets, moving with the purposeful efficiency of those who dealt in millions daily. This is, I started, my primary office building. Dante led me to a private elevator that required his handprint to activate. I want to show you something. We rode up in silence, the city shrinking below us through the elevator's glass walls. My heart hammered, and I couldn't tell if it was fear or anticipation, or some toxic mixture of both. The doors opened directly into an office suite that belonged in architectural magazines. One wall was entirely glass, overlooking the city. The furniture was sleek and minimal, but personal touches caught my eye. Framed photographs of what looked like family, a shelf of books in Italian, a chess set carved from marble and obsidian. But Dante led me past all of it to a smaller office connected to his. This room was empty except for a desk, a chair, and more of those stunning windows. What is this? I asked. Yours, if you want it. He leaned against the doorframe, watching me. I've been thinking about what you said, about control, about autonomy, about not being a thing to be taken. He gestured to the space. So here's an option. Work for me, legitimately. My organization has various enterprises, real estate, import, export, investments, all perfectly legal on paper. On paper, I repeated. The world isn't black and white, Emma. Very little is completely clean or completely dirty. He moved into the room, his presence filling it. But this would give you actual employment, actual purpose beyond serving me. You'd have your own income, your own responsibilities, your own identity within my world. As what? Your secretary? Your assistant? As whatever you want to be. You're smart, observant, good with people despite how invisible you try to make yourself. His hand reached out, fingertips grazing my jaw. I could use someone I trust working close to me. Someone who understands loyalty because she's lived without it. You don't trust me. You barely know me. I know you've spent 3 years paying off debts that weren't yours because you believed in responsibility. I know you work yourself to exhaustion for your daughter. I know that when faced with a powerful man making threats, your first instinct was to protect your family, not yourself. His thumb traced my cheekbone. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. This is still control, I whispered. Just dressed up prettier, yes. But it's control with compensation. With purpose. With the illusion of choice, if that makes it easier to swallow. He stepped closer, and I found myself backed against the desk, his body caging mine without actually touching. I'm not asking you to love me, Emma. I'm not even asking you to like me. I'm asking you to accept reality. You're in my world now, and you can either fight it every step and exhaust yourself, or you can find a way to exist here that doesn't destroy you. And if I say no, if I refuse this job, refuse everything you're offering, then I'll still protect you, still provide for Lily, still ensure your mother's security. His face was so close now, I could feel his breath against my lips. But you'll spend every day wondering what it could have been like if you'd stopped fighting and started adapting. That's manipulation. That's honesty. His hand cupped the back of my neck, fingers threading into my freshly styled hair. I want you here, Emma. In my office, in my world, eventually in my bed, but I'm patient. I can wait for you to come to terms with the inevitable. You're so certain I will. I'm certain that you're already halfway there, and you hate yourself for it. His lips brushed my temple, barely a kiss, just a whisper of contact. I see it in the way you responded to the clothes, the spa, this office. You want to be angry, but part of you is relieved. Part of you is grateful that someone finally saw you and decided you were worth investing in. Tears burned behind my eyes because he was right. God help me, he was right. Some broken part of me craved exactly what he was offering: security, attention, the twisted validation of being wanted so completely by someone so powerful. I need time, I managed. Of course. He released me, stepping back and leaving me cold. The offer stands indefinitely. Think about it. Discuss it with your mother if you want. But Emma, he turned at the doorway. Time doesn't stop the world from turning. Every day you're connected to me. Every day my protection covers you. You're already part of this. The only question is whether you're an active participant or a passive observer. Katya drove me home in silence as afternoon light faded into dusk. I stared out the window, watching normal people live normal lives. Grocery shopping, walking dogs, picking up children from daycare. The mundane beauty of it made my chest ache. When we pulled up to Mom's house, I saw the new car in the driveway. A Honda CR-V, dark blue. Practical but new enough to still have that showroom shine. The keys were on the kitchen counter with another note. Safe, reliable, and actually starts in winter. D-Mom stood at the stove stirring pasta sauce, Lily at the table coloring with fierce concentration. The domestic scene should have been comforting, but it felt like a stage set. Beautiful and false and temporary. How was it? Mom asked carefully. Confusing. I sank into a chair beside Lily, watching her attack the coloring page with a purple crayon. He took me to a spa, showed me an office he's offering me, made promises wrapped in threats wrapped in promises. What kind of office? Working for him. In his legitimate businesses, I laughed without humor, though I'm not sure anything about him is actually legitimate. Would you take it? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. I rubbed my face, feeling the expensive facial cream the spa had applied. Is it wrong that I'm considering it? That part of me wants to say yes to all of it? Mom set down her spoon, wiping her hands on a dish towel before sitting across from me. 3 years ago, you asked me the same kind of question about Marcus. Is it wrong that I want to believe him? And I told you to trust your instincts. My instincts were wrong about Marcus. No, they weren't. You knew he was trouble. You sensed the danger, but you were lonely and tired, and you wanted to believe in the fairy tale. She reached across the table, covering my hand with hers. This man, Dante, he's different from Marcus. He's not pretending to be good. He's showing you exactly who he is and what he wants. That's either more dangerous or more honest. Maybe both. So what do? You survive, baby. Like you always have. You make the choices that keep you and Lily safe, and you don't apologize for doing what you have to do. She squeezed my hand. But you also remember that accepting his help doesn't mean accepting everything else. You can take what you need without giving him your soul. I'm not sure he'll allow that distinction. Then you make him allow it. You're stronger than you think, Emma. You've survived things that would have broken other people. This is just another kind of survival. Lily looked up from her coloring, her gap-toothed smile innocent and trusting. Mommy, look. I made you a picture. It was a house, crooked and colorful, with a stick figure family standing in front. Mom, Lily and me, no father figure, no ominous presence lurking at the edges. Just us, together, safe in Lily's uncomplicated world. It's beautiful, baby. I pulled her into my lap, holding her tight, breathing in her strawberry shampoo scent. You're so talented. My phone buzzed. Another message from Dante. Dinner tomorrow night. Just you and me. I'll send details in the morning, not a question. Not a request. Just another statement of inevitability. I typed back, what if I have plans? His response came quickly, then cancel them. We have things to discuss. Like what? Like the terms of your employment. Like the boundaries you think you can maintain. Like how long you plan to pretend you don't feel the pull between us. My breath caught. The last line was too honest, too direct, cutting through all the professional pretense to the darker truth underneath. That's not... I started typing, then deleted it. Started again. You're imagining things. Am I? Then why are you still wearing the clothes I sent? Why did you relax into that massage like you'd been waiting years for someone to touch you gently? Why are you sitting in your mother's kitchen right now thinking about me instead of dismissing me as the monster you want me to be? I stared at the message, my heart racing, because he was right again. Because even here, surrounded by the safety of home and family, part of my mind was still in that office. Still feeling his hand on my neck, still wondering what would have happened if he'd actually kissed me instead of just brushing his lips against my temple. Tomorrow night, I typed finally. But we're setting boundaries. Of course, he replied. You can try. The implied challenge in those 3 words made something dark and shameful coil in my stomach. This was a game I didn't know how to play, with rules that shifted every time I thought I understood them. But I was learning. God help me, I was learning. Lily wiggled in my lap, and I held her tighter, anchoring myself to what mattered. Whatever happened with Dante, whatever compromises I made or boundaries I crossed, I had to protect this, the simple joy of my daughter's laughter, the safety of my mother's kitchen, the life I'd built from scraps and stubbornness, even if that life now belonged to a man whose darkness called to something equally dark inside me. The restaurant Dante chose was the kind of place I'd only seen in movies, intimate and exclusive, with tables spaced far enough apart to ensure privacy and lighting dim enough to feel romantic without being oppressive. A single hostess stood at the entrance, and she smiled when she saw me, as if she'd been expecting my arrival. Ms. Hartwell, welcome. Mr. Castellano is waiting. Of course he was. She led me through the restaurant, past couples murmuring over wine and elaborate dishes, to a corner booth that overlooked the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. Dante stood as I approached, and the sight of him stole my breath all over again. He wore a navy suit tonight, perfectly tailored, with a white shirt open at the collar. Simple. Devastating. Emma. He took my hand, bringing it to his lips in a gesture that should have felt outdated, but instead felt intimate. You look stunning. I'd agonized over what to wear, finally settling on a simple black dress I'd found at a consignment shop years ago, one of the few nice things I owned that Marcus hadn't ruined with his memory. But standing here in front of Dante, I felt the gap between our worlds more acutely than ever. Thank you for coming, he said as we sat. Did I have a choice? Always. His eyes held mine across the table. Though I'm gratified you chose to be here. A waiter appeared with wine, red, expensive, poured without asking if I wanted it. Dante must have noticed my expression because he said, "Just for me, I ordered sparkling water for you." The consideration surprised me. Small details like that, remembering I didn't drink, ensuring I was comfortable, they complicated the narrative I was trying to maintain about him being simply a monster. We need to talk about boundaries, I said once the waiter had left. Boundaries. He swirled his wine, watching the liquid catch the light. What kind of boundaries did you have in mind? If I take this job, and I'm not saying I will, it needs to be professional, employee and employer, nothing more. Nothing more, he repeated, amusement flickering in his eyes. And what about the fact that I've already claimed you? That I've told you explicitly you belong to me? That's not how reality works, isn't it? He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Emma, let me be very clear about something. I don't make claims lightly. When I say you're mine, I mean it in every sense. Professionally, personally, eventually physically if you'll allow it. But I'm not a barbarian. I won't force myself on you. Just control every other aspect of my life. Only the aspects you're clearly struggling to manage yourself. His tone was matter of fact, not cruel. You were drowning, Emma. Working yourself to death, buried in debt, invisible to everyone around you. I'm offering you a lifeboat. Whether you choose to get in is up to you. But you can't deny the water is rising. The waiter returned with appetizers I hadn't ordered. Delicate portions of food arranged like art. Dante watched me take a tentative bite, and I hated how aware I was of his gaze, how it made my skin warm. Tell me about your family, I said, deflecting. You have photographs in your office. My parents died when I was 16. Car accident. Real one, not the kind I arrange. He said it without emotion, like discussing the weather. I have a younger sister, Isabella. She's studying art in Florence, far away from this world. That's how I prefer it. You keep her separate. I keep her safe. There's a difference. He took a slow sip of wine. The things I do, the life I lead, it's not something I'd wish on anyone I love. But it's the hand I was dealt, and I've learned to play it well. You make it sound inevitable, like you had no choice, didn't I? His eyes darkened. When you're 16 and orphaned and inherit your father's debts to very dangerous people, you either step up or you die. I chose to step up. And once you're in, Emma, there's no getting out. You just dig deeper and learn to survive in the darkness. The vulnerability in his words caught me off guard. This wasn't the calculated mafia boss or the possessive predator. This was something rawer, more human. Is that what you see in me? I asked quietly. Someone else who's learned to survive in darkness? I see someone who understands that survival requires compromises. Someone who's already made impossible choices and lived with the consequences. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. Someone who might understand that taking what I'm offering isn't weakness. It's strategy. It feels like surrender. Maybe surrender isn't always defeat. His thumb traced circles on my palm, the touch sending electricity up my arm. Maybe sometimes it's choosing the battle you can actually win. The main course arrived, perfectly cooked steak and vegetables I couldn't name, and we ate in silence for a while. But the tension between us was palpable, thick enough to choke on. I called the hospital today, I said finally. They told me I've been put on indefinite leave, paid at double my usual salary. You're welcome. That wasn't a thank you. That was an accusation. I know. He set down his fork, giving me his full attention. But Emma, you were killing yourself there. 14-hour shifts, terrible pay, no respect. You deserve better. And you get to decide what I deserve? Someone has to. You clearly won't advocate for yourself. He leaned back, studying me. When's the last time you asked for a raise? Demanded better hours? Stood up for what you needed instead of just accepting whatever scraps they threw you? The accuracy of his words stung. That's not fair. It's completely fair. You've been invisible for so long you've forgotten how to be seen. I'm simply correcting that oversight by controlling my employment, by giving you options you didn't have before. He signaled for the waiter, who appeared instantly with dessert menus. You can go back to the hospital if you want. I won't stop you. But the job in my office stands. Better pay, better hours, work that actually challenges you instead of grinding you down. The choice is yours. But if I don't choose what you want, there will be consequences. Not consequences. Disappointment. His eyes held mine, and the knowledge that you're settling for less than you could have, because pride won't let you accept help from a man who terrifies you. The dessert menu sat untouched between us as I processed his words. He was right. God, I hated how often he was right. The hospital had never valued me, had never seen me as anything more than another overworked nurse filling shifts nobody else wanted. Going back there would be familiar, safe, slowly suffocating. What would I actually do? I asked. In your office? His expression shifted, triumph carefully controlled. Initially, administrative work. Coordinating schedules, managing communications, ensuring operations run smoothly. But I think you're capable of more. Given time, training, you could move into actual management, oversee projects, make decisions. Legal decisions? As legal as anything I do. He smiled slightly. I'm not asking you to launder money or dispose of bodies, Emma. I'm asking you to help run businesses that exist in gray areas, but don't cross into blatant criminality. Gray areas that could still get me arrested. Theoretically. But I protect my own, and my lawyers are excellent. He reached for my hand again, and this time I didn't pull away. I won't lie to you. There's risk. But there's risk in everything, in crossing the street, in trusting the wrong person, in playing it safe and dying slowly of exhaustion and obscurity. His fingers laced with mine, and I stared at our joined hands. His larger, stronger, scarred across the knuckles from violence I didn't want to imagine. Mine smaller, softer, trembling slightly, despite my efforts to appear calm. I need guarantees, I said. About Lily. About my mother. If I do this, if I work for you, they stay completely separate. No involvement, no danger. Already done. I've assigned permanent security to your mother's house. Discreet surveillance, nothing invasive. Lily will have a driver for when she starts school. Your mother's medical care is now fully covered, including the medications she's been rationing because Medicare doesn't pay enough. My head snapped up. How did you... I told you. I know everything about you. His grip on my hand tightened. Her arthritis medication. The heart pills she's supposed to take twice daily but stretches to make them last. The dentist appointments she's been postponing because of cost. All of it handled. Because taking care of you means taking care of the people you love. Tears burned my eyes. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Emma, but I can make yours easier. Let me. The waiter brought dessert without us ordering. Tiramisu and creme brulee. Presented like edible art. I couldn't eat, couldn't think past the realization that he'd already woven himself so deeply into my life that extracting him would tear everything apart. What do you want from me? I whispered. Really want. Beyond the job, beyond the protection. What's the endgame here? Dante was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching mine. Then, I want you in my life, in my bed. In my world so completely that the thought of you with anyone else makes me want to commit violence. He said it calmly, like discussing business terms. I want to wake up with you beside me, fall asleep knowing you're safe, spend my days aware that you exist and you're mine. That's obsession. Yes. No hesitation. No apology. But it's honest obsession. I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. I'm not Marcus, lying and manipulating and taking what he wanted before disappearing. I'm offering you everything I have in exchange for the same from you. I can't give you everything. Then give me what you can. He released my hand to cup my face. Thumb brushing across my cheekbone. Start with the job. With letting me care for you. With accepting that maybe, possibly, you don't have to do everything alone anymore. The touch undid me. Something broke inside. Walls I'd maintained for years. Defenses against being hurt again, the armor that had kept me functional but isolated. A sob escaped before I could stop it, and then another, years of exhaustion and fear and loneliness spilling out in the middle of an expensive restaurant. I'm so tired, I choked out. I'm so tired of being strong. Then don't be. He moved around the table, sliding into the booth beside me, pulling me against his chest. Let me be strong for you. Let me carry the weight for a while. I knew this was surrender, knew I was giving him exactly what he wanted. My trust, my vulnerability, my tacit agreement that his version of reality was the one we'd live in now. But God, it felt good to lean into someone, to let someone else make the decisions, to stop fighting current that was too strong to swim against anyway. Okay, I whispered into his shoulder. Okay, what? I'll take the job. I'll try this. Whatever this is. His arms tightened around me, and I felt him exhale like he'd been holding his breath. You won't regret it. I already regret it, but I'm doing it anyway. He laughed then, a real laugh that rumbled through his chest. That's my girl, practical even in surrender. 3 months passed. 3 months of learning to exist in Dante's world, of morning meetings in the office I'd claimed as my own, of learning the intricacies of his businesses. Some legitimate, some questionable, all profitable. 3 months of Lily thriving in preschool with a security detail she thought were just mommy's friends. Of Mom finally getting proper medical care and actually admitting she felt better. 3 months of Dante circling closer, his touches lingering longer, his possessiveness sharpening into something that felt inevitable. We hadn't slept together. That remained the one boundary I maintained, the line I wouldn't let him cross, but the tension between us was unbearable. Loaded glances across conference tables, his hand on my lower back lasting seconds too long, the way he looked at me like I was prey he was enjoying stalking. Tonight, we were at his penthouse again. He'd invited me for dinner, and I'd agreed because refusing felt pointless. We both knew where this was heading. I stood at those massive windows, watching the city lights, while Dante moved behind me. I could feel his approach, the air thickening with his presence. "Emma." His voice was rough, closer than I expected. I turned and found him right there, barely inches away. His eyes were almost black in the dim lighting, his jaw tight with barely controlled restraint. "I've been patient," he said quietly. "I've given you space, time, the illusion of control. But I'm done waiting. Dante, no, let me finish." His hand came up, fingers threading through my hair the way they had so many times before. "I want you. Not just in my office, not just under my protection. I want you in every way a man can want a woman. And I think I know. You want the same thing. This is insane. We know each other better than most people who've been together for years." His other hand settled on my waist, pulling me closer. "I know you take your coffee black because you can't afford to waste money on cream. I know you bite your lip when you're thinking hard about something. I know you check on Lily 3 times before you can sleep, even though you know she's safe. I know the sound you make when I touch you. That little intake of breath you try to hide." He was right. About all of it. The months had created an intimacy I'd tried to ignore, a connection that went beyond employer and employee into something darker and more consuming. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Of me? Of this. Of wanting you. Of what it means to give in completely. It means you stop running from the inevitable." His forehead rested against mine, our breaths mingling. "It means you accept that you're mine, and I'm yours, and we stop pretending otherwise. And if it goes wrong, if you hurt me the way Marcus did, then you'll have every right to hate me. But Emma, I'm not him. I won't lie to you, won't abandon you, won't take what I want and leave destruction behind." His lips brushed my temple, barely a kiss. "I'll consume you, yes, but I'll also protect you, provide for you, worship you in ways that selfish bastard never could." The conviction in his voice broke my last resistance. I tilted my face up, meeting his eyes. "Show me." Something fierce and triumphant flashed across his features. Then his mouth was on mine, claiming me with a kiss that was nothing like gentle. It was possession and promise, and 3 months of denied wanting all compressed into a single moment of surrender. I kissed him back just as fiercely, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He tasted like whiskey and desire, and when his tongue swept into my mouth, I made that sound he'd mentioned, that helpless intake of breath that said I was his, completely and irrevocably. He lifted me effortlessly, my legs wrapping around his waist as he carried me through the penthouse to his bedroom. The space was as minimalist and elegant as the rest of the apartment, dominated by a massive bed with black silk sheets. "Last chance," he said, setting me down beside it. "Tell me no, and I'll take you home. No consequences, no anger. Just patience while you take more time." I looked at him. This dangerous, obsessive man who'd invaded my life and rearranged it to suit his purposes. This man who'd given me security and options, and a version of myself I'd forgotten existed. This man who looked at me like I was worth fighting for, worth claiming, worth keeping. "I don't want to say no," I whispered. "Then say yes. Yes." The word had barely left my lips before he was on me again, kissing me with controlled violence while his hands learned my body through my clothes. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "I need you to understand something." His hands framed my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "After tonight, there's no going back. You'll be mine in every way that matters. No other men. No distance. No pretending this isn't exactly what you want. I understand. Do you? His thumb traced my swollen lips. Because I'm not a casual man, Emma. I don't share. I don't tolerate betrayal. What's mine stays mine. Then I guess I'm yours. The smile that curved his lips was pure predatory satisfaction. Yes, you are. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Dante's arm heavy across my waist. The night came back in fragments, his hands, his mouth, the way he'd taken me apart and put me back together, branded me so thoroughly I could still feel the echo of his touch on every inch of my skin. Good morning? His voice was rough with sleep, his accent thicker. How do you feel? Different, I admitted, turning to face him. In the morning light, he looked younger, almost vulnerable, his dark hair disheveled and his defenses lowered. Regrets? Not yet. Ask me again later. He laughed, pulling me closer. Fair enough. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, Mom checking in, probably worried I hadn't come home. But when I reached for it, Dante's hand caught my wrist. Not yet, he said. Stay here a little longer. Let the world wait. So I did. I stayed wrapped in expensive sheets in Dante's arms, pretending that complicated reality could be postponed. But eventually, we had to surface. Had to dress and drink coffee and acknowledge that life continued beyond this bedroom. What happens now? I asked, as he drove me home later that morning. Now we continue as we have been. You work. I provide. We build something together. He glanced at me, his hand finding my thigh. Except now you sleep in my bed instead of your mother's house. Now you wear my ring instead of pretending we're just employer and employee. Ring? My heart stuttered. He smiled. That dangerous smile I'd learned meant he'd already made decisions without consulting me. Did you think I'd claim you this completely and not make it official? We're getting married, Emma. Soon. You can't just... I can, and I am. His grip on my thigh tightened possessively. You're mine now. Completely. And I take care of what's mine, which means you get my name, my protection, my resources, all of it. People don't get married after 3 months. People in normal relationships don't. But this was never normal, was it? He pulled up to my mother's house, turning to face me fully. This started the moment you sent me that photograph. The moment fate or accident or divine intervention connected us. Everything since has been inevitable. I should have argued. Should have demanded time, space, the chance to think clearly. But looking at him, at this beautiful, dangerous man who'd somehow become essential to my existence, I couldn't find the will to fight. Fine, I said, but I want a small wedding, just family. Whatever you want. And Lily calls you Dante until she's ready for more. Agreed. And I still get my own office. My own work. I'm not just Mrs. Castellano. You're Emma Castellano. He leaned across the console, kissing me softly. Strong. Capable. Mine. Never just anything. 6 months after Dante Castellano walked into my life, I stood in my mother's small backyard wearing a simple white dress and holding Lily's hand while a judge pronounced us married. Mom cried. Lily giggled and threw rose petals. And Dante looked at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. It wasn't a fairy tale. There was too much darkness in his world, too much violence lurking at the edges for that, but it was real. More real than Marcus's lies had ever been. Dante kept his promises, protected us, provided for us, loved me with an intensity that was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. Some nights I still woke up panicking, convinced I'd made a terrible mistake, but then Dante would pull me against his chest, his heartbeat steady and strong, and whisper promises in Italian I didn't fully understand but felt in my bones. The photography mistake that had started everything sat framed on his desk now. Lily in her sunflower dress, smiling her gap-toothed smile, completely oblivious to how one accidental message had rearranged all our lives. Do you ever regret it? I asked him one night, curled up on the penthouse sofa while rain streaked the windows. Taking us on? All the complications we brought? Never. His arm tightened around me. You were the best mistake I never made. The accident that became everything. That's not romantic. It's honest. And you deserve honesty. He kissed the top of my head. Besides, you love me despite my flaws. Or maybe because of them. I do, I admitted. God help me, I do. Then that's all that matters. Lily ran into the room then, her small feet pattering on the hardwood, clutching her favorite rabbit. She'd accepted Dante with the easy grace of childhood, claiming him as hers with the same possessiveness he showed toward me. Dante! She climbed onto the sofa between us. Tell me a story. What kind of story? He asked, pulling her into his lap with surprising gentleness. About dragons and princesses, all right. Once upon a time, there was a dragon who lived in a very tall tower. I watched them together, this man who terrified grown criminals telling fairy tales to my daughter with complete seriousness, and felt something settle deep in my chest. This was real, complicated and sometimes frightening, but real. Outside, the city glittered in the rain, full of people living their separate lives. But here, in this penthouse that had become home, we'd built something unexpected. Something that had started with fear and possession and transformed into belonging. I'd surrendered to Dante Castellano, given him my trust, my body, my future, and in return, he'd given me a life I'd stopped believing existed, one where I was seen, valued, protected, where Lily could grow up safe and secure, where my mother could finally rest without worrying about money. Was it perfect? No. Dante's world would always carry shadows, would always require careful navigation and moral compromises, but it was ours. And that was enough. Mommy? Lily looked at me over Dante's shoulder. Are you happy? I met Dante's eyes across our daughter's head, saw the fierce possession and genuine care in his gaze, felt the weight of his ring on my finger. Yes, baby, I said honestly. I am. And strangely, miraculously, it was true.